Senate Democrats blocking a Republican police reform bill. Democrats called it flawed, saying it didn't include an outright ban on chokeholds or no-knock warrants. It also didn't address qualified immunity, which protects officers from lawsuits. Around the country, though, cities and states are having conversations about how to reform police departments to make communities safer. The former police chief of Newark, New Jersey, Ivonne Roman, has one idea: hire and promote more women. Ivonne joins me now. She is the founder of the Women's Leadership Academy. Ivonne, great to have you on. Let's get some perspective here. How many female officers are there compared to men across the country? What are we talking about?
So only 12% of law enforcement right now are females, and that's a number that's remained stagnant for more than 25 years now. It just hasn't budged. And when you look at leadership, only about 3.5% of our chiefs are females.
Look, I'm a woman, you're a woman. I think most women would agree here that having more women in a whole lot of different positions would make a huge difference. How would having more female officers fix some of the issues we've been seeing in police departments, specifically issues of police brutality?
So I've been looking at the research into women in policing. I'm an advocate of evidence-based policing, and there's a body of literature spanning 50 years that show women use less force. They're accused of excessive force less. They result in less lawsuits and less citizen complaints, that they're rated as effective in citizen surveys. So there's a vast body of evidence that shows that the outcomes for communities and police departments would improve if you just increase the number of representation of women in policing.
There are going to be people, of course, who argue against this. What would you say to someone, for example, who brings up, say, the Amber Geiger case, the former female Dallas police officer convicted of killing Botham Jean in his own apartment? What do you say about cases like that?
And that's why I stick so closely to the research and not to my own opinion. So the research shows that there are positive outcomes. Amber, this white officer, she did kill Botham Jean in his apartment, and she's been convicted for that. You also have an example with Betty Jo Shelby in 2016. She killed an unarmed black man, and she was not convicted. That was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But then on the other extreme, you have other anecdotes where you have Carrie Horn. She was a Buffalo police officer. In 2006, she intervened when her partner was choking a handcuffed suspect. Her partner assaulted her, and then the officers that were there filed complaints against her, saying that she endangered them. She was fired in 2008. Yet that same officer in 2009 assaulted 4 juveniles, and in 2016, he was convicted. He pled guilty. He was able to keep his pension. She did not. And we have another example right now during the protests where Crystal Smith in Fort Lauderdale, she intervened when her partner was using excessive force. And similar to Carrie Smith, he turned around and said that she was making him look bad in social media. But because of the media attention that we have now, I don't believe that Crystal Smith will suffer the same consequences as Carrie Horn. So we have these outliers, but you have to look at statistically what the data says. And the data says that women use less force than their male counterparts.
So let's talk about how we get more women involved in law enforcement. How should cities do that? And is there something you'd like to see happen on a national level?
So I posted a few of the articles that I've been involved with recently in LinkedIn, and I had a gentleman comment to me. He's a captain, and he's saying that they attract women and they enter the police academy, but then they quit. So I told him, if you notice that women are quitting, then what are you doing to address that? Because the data from the Bureau of Justice Statistics says that women don't quit. Women are dismissed because of physical fitness or problems at the firearm range, things that can be addressed by proper training. Men are the ones that tend to resign or are dismissed for academics or disciplinary problems. So if someone in his position notices that women are resigning, he has to look at the culture within that academy. Chiefs will tell me that women don't apply. They again have to look at the culture. Why wouldn't a woman want a career job that has a secure pension and health benefits? They have to question if their culture really makes women feel welcome there.
Where do you stand on defunding police? There has been a lot of talk about reallocating funds from police to other social services. And do you think that would prevent departments from hiring more women?
So I work for the Center for Policing Equity, and we believe in making police departments more efficient. So we have to be careful when we're talking about defunding police, because there are cities with true violence problems, and we don't want to leave those communities more vulnerable than they already are. But there are ways to reallocate what police departments are doing. For instance, I don't believe that police officers should be responding to mental health situations. There are people more qualified than that. Or you can team up mental health experts with a law enforcement officer. We also had officers responding to individuals violating the masks requirement during the pandemic. That could be handled by the public health department. Instead of looking at it as a punitive measure, you could use it as a way to educate the public. You can hand out masks. You can hand out information on why masks prevent transmissions. Because law enforcement is a 24/7 operation, too often we look at them as a Band-Aid to fill any need that society may have when they're not the best suited social service representatives to handle those calls.
Yvonne, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am a firm believer that anytime you have more women involved, it is a good idea. Thank you for joining us to talk about why it could be so important in law enforcement. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Seattle is taking back the police-free autonomous zone known as CHOP. The Capitol Hill Occupy protest has been ordered to disband after 2 weeks. The mayor saying it is time for people to go home after 2 weekend shootings. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson joins me now from the CHOP zone. And Steve, the mayor initially supported these protesters. What changed her mind here?
Well, I don't think anything has changed her mind, Allison. I think her support for respecting the First Amendment, for the ability to peacefully protest and demonstrate and organize, none of that has changed. What has changed is what you mentioned at the beginning, which is this has gone on now for 2 weeks, since June 8th. And, you can't see it behind me because of, the precinct and the boarded up and the signs and all of that. But I'm looking at a business district. I mean, there's a dentist office, there's a poke bar. On top of those, you'll see apartments, you'll see residential areas. So businesses are affected, residents are affected. And that's the argument that the city has been making, that this has gone on long enough. And then you compound that with the fact that there have been shootings over the weekend, leaving 2 people injured, leaving a 19-year-old dead, and then followed by another shooting just Tuesday morning. It is no wonder why the city says that they want to do something about lifting this zone. But the way they've been talking about it is by not by sending in a force of police to sort of clear the street, but by, doing it smoothly, by communication with the leadership, by bringing in certain elements to the homeless population, giving them resources and the ability to move out safely. I want to show you around like we've been doing since the beginning and just show you CHOP. I mean, this is the middle of it right here. That's the 3rd precinct. You look around, you see people just kind of milling about. There's a drum circle going on right now. There's people sort of talking. There's a speaker's couch set up. You see the signs of BLM and Black Lives Matter, and you'll see some of their demands that are written down. But for the most part, during the day, the element that we've been able to see on the ground, it has been largely peaceful. It is the night element that they are trying to eliminate and say has been going on for long enough. So the hope is that they're communicating with the leadership here, that they're able to set sort of boundaries as far as timing. So almost like a soft curfew from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, with the hope that at some point that police will be able to move back into the 3rd precinct. That is the ultimate goal. How long that will take, what the timeline is, what that looks like at the end. Is there going to be a conflict? None of those answers are apparent at this point, but they're doing what they can now to sort of get that messaging out early on. Allison?
Steve, what has the response been like there from folks who are part of CHOP? How is CHOP responding to the mayor, and does it look like something they might be able to work together on?
So the issue with this is there's no talking to CHOP, right? There's no leadership. There's no one person that's in charge of it. There's no governing body of CHOP that is decreeing what everybody is going to do. There are scattered leaders in sort of different community groups that have come together to support one message, which is essentially that Black Lives Matter. But there's no one that is making decisions at the top that is dictating to the rest of the people what exactly is going to happen. Then you have certain situations in which you have a hardcore segment of protesters who have been here from the very beginning. You have people that are coming in and out. You have residents that are curious. You have almost chopped tourists that come inside just to take a look, maybe bringing their families just to check it out, as this is sort of a historical sort of setup in the city. You have a drum circle. You have all sorts of people that are here. So there's no one response. But we have been speaking to protesters. I just spoke to a guy, that has basically been saying that this has been paring down over the days, that over the last few weeks where this started, where this may have been full of people and full of protesting and full of vigor, the entire day that you're here, now it is sort of emptied out, and you'll see that there are now a line of tents that are around the precinct, sort of caking in between, maybe preparing for an eventual conflict with the people who are the most hardcore, who are saying, no matter what, we are going to stay. That is the element that where it may come down to police moving in with the eventual goal of moving people out. But again, it is starting with community groups. It's starting with communication with the hopes that this can all be solved to some sort of agreement in a peaceful manner. Allison?
Let's hope so. Steve Patterson in the Chop Zone in Seattle, thank you so much.
Got it.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.